lakh manuscripts, digitizing them and producing a descriptive digital catalog, all linked to the images. So that was our goal. The reason why we are doing it is so that we can preserve our ancient heritage and make it accessible to Sanskrit scholars. So ultimately, who are we doing it for? We're doing it for researchers and for Sanskrit scholars all over the world. And so whatever we do, therefore, has to be suitable for scholars. And that became the first step that we took to determine what is it the scholars want. So the starting point for our work was to find out if there are already existing computer systems that we could buy or license or use, so that we may not have to invent our own. And after an extensive study, which took us about 5 to 6 months to do, we came to the conclusion that we just can't use any of the existing systems for Sanskrit manuscripts because they are a uh, because they're quite highly variable and they need some special treatment. So that then gave us the opportunity to develop our own systems and develop these systems keeping the Sanskrit scholar in mind. So that then became the goal. And that led us to think, how might Sanskrit scholars use a digital catalog? So there were a few models. There are paper catalogs done in the 19th century from uh, Egeling and Mackenzie and Pullman and so on. They became models to study. In terms of descriptive catalogs, Bori has been publishing, Bhandarkar has been publishing descriptive catalogs from 1930 onwards. Um, so we said, well, one of the things we need to do is decide what is the metadata about each manuscript that we will capture. And for that, for descriptive catalog entries, we chose three models to study in great detail. One was the Bori model. The second one was the work done by the Text Encoding Initiative Group. And the third one is the widely known in library science, the Mark 21 standard. We compiled this information into the metadata that might be useful to a Sanskrit scholar. But then we said, look, we're doing 25 lakh manuscripts. And maybe in the whole of Sanskrit literature, there are maybe 200,000 titles, maybe 250,000 titles. So one might encounter many, many manuscripts of the same title or by the same author. So how will a scholar find what they're looking for? And that became the first step that we took in terms of how search is going to happen and how search results are going to be presented to the Sanskrit scholars. So we developed alternative designs, and we said, before we go ahead and use this opportunity to develop the computer systems that were needed for cataloging Sanskrit manuscripts, let us run a workshop with Sanskrit scholars and see what it is that they want. So we developed two alternative designs on paper, and we organized a workshop in Pune where we called a number of people interested in manuscriptology and also scholars from the Sanskrit arena. And we talked to them about about the two alternative designs and about our ideas. And with that, we were able to polish the ideas and freeze a design for not only the metadata that we needed to capture, but also how we're going to do the search and so on. So fundamentally, we said about the catalog, there are three properties which are absolutely, absolutely essential. And if those three properties are followed, then users will find it useful. And we then went about defining what should a catalog do. If we use the term dharma, as in the profound bounden duty. So what is the dharma of our catalog? And we said, well, the dharma of the catalog is, if there is a Sanskrit scholar searching for something, the results they get must be very precise, which means that nothing relevant to their search has been excluded and irrelevant stuff is minimized. So if you've experienced Amazon and if you start typing, say, for a book on manuscriptology, you will get all sorts of superfluous and irrelevant data also. So we said, no, we should have the irrelevant stuff minimized, but nothing which is relevant should be missed out. And we call that the precision of the catalog. The other thing is it must be accurate. So if somebody is looking for, say, manuscripts on Anarg Raghav, then they should be able to get everything associated with Anarg Raghav or only the things that they want. So that's where the accuracy comes in. And lastly, consistency. And we have experienced this in catalogs, particularly the computer catalogs, which we have seen out of Namami and out of IGNCA, and the catalogs which are included within the NCC from Madras University. Consistency is critical. People over the years will catalog the same thing in a different way. Different catalogers will catalog the same thing in a different way. So we just said the metadata that is critical to search and delivery of results must be the same for every text that is cataloged, because one text will have many, many manuscripts. So given those goals, the computer system that we set up and the processes that we set up had to deal with the challenges of, first and foremost, the big variability that one gets within Sanskrit manuscripts. And I don't have to tell this panel or this audience how variable Sanskrit manuscripts can be. So how do we deal with variability on the one hand, and on the other hand, keep things simple? And I'll come to simplicity in a short while. The second thing we had to deal with was, how do we deal with this large scale? When you're talking of 25 lakh digital descriptive catalogs, one is talking literally of a very, very large amount of data on the one hand within the catalog itself, and also a very large repository of images, because what we are doing is cataloging images. So the images have to be linked to the descriptive catalog, and one is just literally talking of petabytes of data here. So how do you still get fast searches on, and how do you manage a database which is very, very large? Coming to simplicity, we in the very early days figured and calculated that we will need about 200 people working on this project, and these 200 people will probably need 20 to 25 years to complete this work. So with that in mind, if the processes we have, if making catalog entries is too complicated, then we may not be able to get the staff and train them easily. So that became the third challenge. It needed to be simple enough, yet it needed to be precise, it needed to be accurate, and it needed to be consistent. So keeping the user in mind, we also had to keep the catalog editor in mind. Now, our process and our computer systems have been described reasonably well through the live demonstrations that are in my video presentation, which I'm sure everybody has seen. But we started with one library with a collection of about 15,800 manuscripts, which is the Vedic Sanchodhan Mandal in Pune. And we thought that this would be a pilot project where we would learn, and once we have learned, we can then scale the program and have other libraries to join us. So thankfully, we have learned a lot from Vedic Sanchodhan Mandal and from cataloging, producing the descriptive catalog, the manuscripts in the VSM collection. That knowledge has been transformed into improving our computer systems on the one hand, and more importantly, improving our processes. We now have the confidence to go to other libraries and get them to join. And I'm very happy to say that at least 2 libraries have now contracted with us to deal with their collections. And more libraries are work in process. So we now have also set up a process by which we can get collectors of manuscripts and formal libraries also to join our work. I'll finish by just sharing some experiences from our work because they are very important. Yes, we have developed a very powerful IT system, and that IT system is available for everybody to see in my presentations. But the success of our work is not just in our technology, it is in the whole process that we have put around it. How we interact with the library. For instance, one of the libraries we're working with have a collection of 3,500 odd manuscripts. They have imaged 1,400 manuscripts, but being a private collection, there is no formal accession register. So we have no link between an image which they've already taken and a unique identifier for that manuscript. So our processes have to cope with this variability between libraries also. And thankfully, what we found is that our processes today that we developed around Vedic Sanchodhan Mandal